What is going on, friends? This is Matt Carter, that YouTube realtor, and today I'm going to be talking about an interesting topic, and it's a lot to do with the pricing that we're seeing going on in the market. And you see all these houses hitting the market. I talk about it in some of my market updates. Homes going for over $1 million. And I know $1 million isn't what it used to be 10, 20 years ago, maybe when you were growing up or a bit younger. But the big question is for a lot of people is, how are people affording these $1 million plus homes? I mean, are they making a ton of money? Are these the super rich people that are just living amongst us that we're just unaware of? So I'm going to go through some scenarios and talk about exactly how some people may be affording these houses. Of course, if you haven't been with me before or you haven't done it yet, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell to make sure you're aware of all my content coming up in the future. Really helps me out with getting my content out there. YouTube really likes that stuff for the algorithm. So do me a favor, hit those buttons, and then I'll get right into it. So first up, I'm going to preface all of this with, I have pulled a lot of this data from the databases that I have access to. So some of this information and data that I'm using is real data. I know these situations do occur and people have bought houses for certain prices, but I'm also making a whole bunch of assumptions. I don't know specific people's information. I don't know how much their mortgage rate was. I don't know what their current mortgage rate is. There's a lot of assumptions that I am making, so before you start yelling at me in the comments, I am fully aware. Everybody's situation is completely different, but I am trying to give you a realistic idea of how so many people are able to afford those houses that are over $1 million, and you don't necessarily need to be a millionaire in order to do that. So there are two basic ways that you could be able to afford a house over $1 million, and one being just being super wealthy. You have a lot of money in the bank, you have a great paying job, maybe you won the lottery, maybe your investments did great and now you have a lump sum and you can just go straight out and buy a house over $1 million. Most of the time that is not the situation, and the more common way people are doing it is by using equity in their house. So let's just go through this with an example. It's the easiest way to show you how it's done. So let's assume in 2010 you bought a home worth $200,000. This is in London. This is in an area that has been developed over time, so you kind of got in there early, and now it's a very well established area. Let's say you got a house for just a regular mortgage, the average mortgage that you're going to get, 5-year fixed term over 25 years. Back then, rates were around 5.5% or so we'll give that. And you've just been making regular payments, no extras, you haven't been making large lump sums, you haven't refinanced, you haven't done anything like that. Assuming you've been doing all that, the remaining principal on your mortgage that you would need to pay is just under $130,000. Now, let's take that same property today in 2021. We're at the end of the year, and looking up data from that area of town that I was talking about, it's become well established now. There's a lot of people living there. It's a good school district, things of that nature. That home is now worth $775,000. This is based on comparable homes in the area that have sold, similar bedrooms, bathrooms, layouts, all that stuff. A lot of homes were built very cookie cutter, so it's quite easy to pull similar comparable data when you're looking at it. And some people say, oh, my house is not worth that, but you may be surprised. If you haven't had your home evaluated recently, you may be surprised how much your house is actually worth nowadays. So if you aren't aware, I'd be happy to help you out. Shoot me a message, send me an email. I'd be happy to show you some comparable data for your house specifically, because you may be sitting on your house, more equity in your house than you think. And this scenario that I'm going to be talking about may be not that far out of reach for you. So taking that current value of your home at $775,000 and your remaining mortgage of just under $130,000, you have just around that $640,000 of equity sitting in your house right now. Now, what that means is all that money can then be applied towards your new purchase when you go to move. You can hold back some of it if you want some cash. You could put all of it there as well if you wanted to. This is also not to mention that any savings, any investments that you may have, that you could also contribute towards a new purchase of your home if you wish to do so. So let's also assume that you and your partner who you're living with make a pretty decent wage, nothing extravagant in the six figures, but let's say you're each making about $75,000 a year. Now, I know that's over what the average household income would be, But there's also a lot of people that do make that much. So for this example, we're going to use that. So your combined household income is $150,000. And let's also assume that you maybe have some debts there for your car, maybe some student loans that are outstanding. Let's say you're around $1,700 a month for those loans. So we'll factor all that in when we plug it into a mortgage calculator. You can find these a lot of places online. I just use a random one that I found doing a Google search online. Most of them use the same basic calculations. And again, this is going to take in a lot of assumptions. There are going to be a lot of other factors that come into play, your gross debt ratios and all that type of stuff. So if you are looking to go down this route and seeing what you can afford specifically, I highly recommend reaching out to a mortgage specialist. They can get you set up, run your numbers. It's completely free, so you have nothing to lose. So if you're not sure where you sit, it never hurts to reach out. So let's say we're going to put all that equity we found in your house towards that new mortgage. We're going to go for, again, a 5-year fixed rate over 25 years, a rate around 3%. Is kind of what you're going to be able to get these days. You put that all into a calculator and you get the amount of $1,001,000 and some change there. Now, I know even when I prefaced it before, I know I've made a lot of assumptions in this scenario, and maybe a lot of you aren't going to be too happy with the numbers that I've pulled out here, but these are completely feasible numbers that I've seen in people that I've worked with, and I know there are people around that work with these numbers, but that's not exactly the point of this video. The point isn't to show you how you can necessarily afford $1 million house. If the average person, everybody could afford $1 million house, that would no longer be the point that I'm talking about right now. The point that I'm trying to get across is most people have more equity in their houses. If you're one of those people that has purchased a home, 5, 10, 15 years ago, whatever it may be, things have changed a lot in the market. And you can probably afford far more if you're looking to move up, if you need some more space for your family, if you're expecting a kid. There's lots of different personal situations where people will be looking to make a move. So maybe you don't fall into this category where you can afford $1 million home. I know I can't, so it's only specific to your scenario. But the point I'm trying to get across is you can probably afford more out of your to move up to a house that's more fitting to what you need, because there is probably far more equity in your home than you are aware of. So if this scenario either sounds very similar to you, or you're just not sure, you don't know where to start, or you think maybe we could be on the cusp of something and it works for you, it makes sense for you at this time, make sure you give me a shout. Make sure you give your mortgage agent or specialist a shout. Again, it's free. There's no obligation to you if you reach out for information. Myself, as well as I know a bunch of other trusted professionals in the business, are happy to provide their information and their services expertise for free, because they just want to see you get the best deal and make the best move possible for your personal situation and your goals. So that's about it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Let me know if I had these numbers right. Maybe you have different opinions on what the average number should be. You can definitely run those numbers by as well to see some, more average-based scenarios. But let me know what your thoughts are. Pass it along to anybody you think would value from this as well. And if you liked it, make sure you hit the button on there, the thumbs up, subscribe to my content. Make sure you hit that bell as well to get notified for all my videos that come up every week. And until then, take care.